welcome to another episode of Be Free, Be Fun, Be Fearless. I am Dr. Rana Al-Falaki, founder of Light Changes Coaching and your host for today. And boy, do I have a treat for you today. We are joined by Sarah Kamalu. Now, I met Sarah a couple of weeks ago at a networking event, and I was moved beyond tears with the stories that she shared with me about her adventures. And I just said to her, you have to come on my podcast and speak to people to tell them your stories, because they really are fascinating and emotive and evocative. So Sarah works in the business world. She's works in the insurance industry in a wellness aspect, but we're not going to be talking about business today, because she's also the first African woman to have ever skied down to the South Pole. She has summited Mount Everest after a 4th attempt, so we're going to be talking about that as well. What an adventurer. She's a motivational speaker, she's a coach, she raises funds to build schools. She's also a sister of 7 girls and a mother. So, you know, I've got some competition today, but I'm delighted to. So welcome, Sarah, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to your listeners.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Now, Sarah, what country are you in?
I'm based in Johannesburg, South Africa. That's at the tip of Africa. I was born in Zambia, though, which is a little bit on the central side of Africa. Yeah. Not really the central, a little bit above South Africa and Zimbabwe and Botswana. I don't know how much your listeners know about Africa, but I'm in South Africa at the moment.
Yeah, our listeners are all over the world. So, yeah, and I've been to South Africa quite a few times for to lecture and speak myself. So it is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country. So, Sarah, the first question I think I have for you is, it seems to be a mismatch between someone who climbs Mount Everest and somebody who has a child.
No? Absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely
not in your mind, but in a lot of people's mind, because they think, oh, when I become a mother, I can't go off and do crazy things like that. So where do you want to start? Yeah. Because there are so many things we're going to touch on.
You know, what is interesting is those same people would not question a man who has a child being on Everest, you know, and I just think we need to change that, you know. I'm a mother, yes, and I can still be me, you know. Beyond being a mother, once they grow up and they go on, I still remain Sarah. So I need to remain true to myself. I love climbing, I'll do that. Others love baking, they should do that, you know. And I think throughout my journey, I've encountered that. I'm not male enough. I don't have enough testosterone to be where I am. You know, I'm not white enough to be there. What am I doing there? Do I belong there? And those are some of the stereotypes that we kind of need to get rid of. You know, people should be who they are. We all have a short time on earth, and we should live optimally, be ourselves and live our purpose. And one of the things that I love saying is, life is an adventure. Let's explore it. And exploring it doesn't mean in my yard and in my kitchen. It means where my heart takes me, and it takes me to the mountain. And I absolutely feel at home out there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I haven't been quite as adventurous as you. I've climbed Mount Kinabalu in Southeast Asia. I've climbed Mount Toubkal, which is the highest one in North Africa, and I've done the Machu Picchu trek, but I have not been anywhere near as high as base camp or the peak of Everest. So, but I completely understand. Mountains speak to me too. For me, that's where I feel I truly sing, and where my heart is. It's where I feel the most free, for sure. So when did this adventure begin?
Well, it started in 2012, but it started really as a bucket list item. I wanted to climb Kilimanjaro because I had visited the US in 1996, and somebody said to me, you know, have you climbed Kilimanjaro, among other things. They initially started with, you know, my friend in Nigeria, which I thought was really ridiculous. until they said, have you done Kilimanjaro? And when I said I hadn't, the guy went to town about it. And I thought, that is my story. I should be telling you that African story. And it made it on my bucket list. And a lot of things happened. Obviously, I had kids, corporate job and all that. Until in 2009, I lost my older sister. And I started wondering whether she had lived her purpose and whether what I was doing in the boardroom was enough to leave the world better than I found it. I really struggled a bit, and I quit my job and I went into this thing of, let me do a job that's purposeful, that's meaningful, that's going to create the impact that makes a difference. Because being raised by a grandfather, he always said to us, if your life is not of service, then that's a life wasted. And I just didn't feel the boardroom was my service kind of thing. And in 2012, I found myself on Kilimanjaro, and while we were preparing, I suggested to the team that we should use the climb to raise money for a home that looks after street kids. And we did that. It wasn't, the summit day was very difficult for me. We raised money enough to build them an outdoor gym, this home. They look after street kids. At the time, they used to have between 180 and 200 street kids. And we converted a room into a library for them. They needed a place to do their homework. And when we were handing over the library and the outdoor gym, one of the kids in the home came to me and said, do you really come from the township? So this is like, do you come from the ghetto? I don't know what you call it on your side of the world. And I initially thought it was a joke. Do Black people kind of swim kind of joke, until I realized that she was serious. There was almost a sense of self-disbelief that I also had growing up watching cartoons, She-Ra and Wonder Woman, and thinking, they didn't look like me, even though they were epic. I loved watching them. They were saving the world. They were amazing, but they didn't talk like me. They were flying and nobody around me looked like that. And she had that. And I came home, I remember thinking, am I doing enough to show my kids, my two sons, that, help comes from within before they look elsewhere? And it didn't matter what they looked like, where they came from. They can step on top of the world. They can do anything, on reflection, I made a decision with some of my friends that I was going to actually climb the 7 highest peaks on the 7 continents, but I'll use it to raise money for education, because I see it as the equalizer. I networked with you online. The world is really a global village, and it's unacceptable if the next generation of Africans can't compete at the same level as any other kid out there. And I think the education is the key, which is why since 2012, all my climbs, I've been raising money. I've built 5 libraries. I'm hoping in the next 2 weeks, we'll be able to build 9, I beg your pardon, digital libraries. And that's why my climbs, if you talk about Everest going 4 times, it's a bit more than just getting onto the summit and taking a picture. It's my purpose. I'm very clear on what my why is. And I know the impact that it's going to have, not just for one generation, for multiple generations, because it's just going to liberate and help somebody.
Yeah, that's so powerful. It truly is that desire to educate people. And I had the luxury of growing up with parents who were so inspirational and truly made me believe that I could do anything. And it's very interesting, actually, because obviously, I have a very British accent. I was born in England, born in London, and yet my name is not, it's an Arabic name, and I'm proud of it. And I never ever looked at the color of my skin or my name. It never held me back. And I was very fortunate to be very highly educated. But the interesting thing is not everybody feels that way. And even my sister, the minute she got married, she changed her name. And then she changed her first name by deed poll. She'd probably kill me for saying this, but I doubt she listened to my podcast. But for her, I remember being so upset that she had rejected her identity and who she was. I remember saying to her, don't tell my father, whatever you do, this is the name he gave you. This is the heritage, the beliefs that he gave you. But for her, she just said, you don't understand. And it was obviously it's a mental thing, but in her mind, her name, her skin color had held her back from her success. Now she's incredibly successful at what she does, but it just goes to show how the mindset can truly affect it, as well as your upbringing. And what I'm hearing you say is, right from your upbringing, and you're following it through with your kids, is this should not be holding you back. And you want to make sure that everybody else has the resources to make sure that doesn't happen.
Absolutely. I think it's yes, it's a mindset, but we can't ignore the systemic discrimination that is around us. You know, one of the things when I started climbing, I said, I'm just an ordinary African woman trying to reach extraordinary heights. And I've since changed that. I am extraordinary. You are extraordinary. We are all uniquely extraordinary. And being ordinary is a choice. And I hope that my kids pick that, other people pick that, because if we every day are obsessed about showing up in an extraordinary way, the world will be a lot more different. I believe that very strongly.
Yeah, I cannot agree more. Yeah, we each have, and even when you talk about purpose and passion and being of service, it's also about making sure that we live because people get lost with that, thinking, oh, I don't know what my purpose is, I don't know what I'm passionate about, I don't know what I'm searching for. And when you are extraordinary and you accept how extraordinary you are able to live each life purposefully, and that is your purpose.
Yes.
To be extraordinary in whatever capacity. That's my belief.
I think absolutely, I agree with you. You know, I don't know if you've read some of the work by Marianne Williamson. He says, playing small does not save the world. What are you doing? Come on, play big. That's what you were made for, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then if we take that further and believe that we are all energy, which means we're limitless. You know, we cannot be created, but we cannot be destroyed. We are limitless. And in that goes amongst the idea of extraordinary and the idea of being, you know, being big and being our amazing selves. So tell me a little bit, which came first, the ski to the South Pole or the Everest climbs?
So Everest came first. So I did Kilimanjaro, as we talked about. I went to Everest in 2014, and unfortunately the mountain was closed after 16 Sherpas died. I came back home, went back in 2015, 2017, and summited in 2019. Most, if not all, most of these climbs, I was saving up to go back to Everest. They were difficult. I mean, I sent out probably about 200 sponsorship letters asking for people to help me, and they didn't. Some were as blunt as saying, nobody has done this. Who's the man that's taking you? Which was quite infuriating, but also, you know, gave me the energy and the resolve to actually show them that we should be judged by our ability, not by anything else, right? So after summiting Everest, my world changed completely. I'm now a paid athlete, and I've partnered with Momentum Multiplier, that's the company I work for, to try and complete the Explorer Grand Slam. So that's the 7 highest peaks on the 7 continents, going to the North Pole and the South Pole. And that's how come immediately after Everest, I was able to go in December and attempt the last degree, which is on Antarctica in the South Pole. The Explorer Grand Slam has only been done by 67 people in the world, and none of them African, whether African female, whether black or white. So that's going to be an interesting one. I think for me, it's about raising awareness, but also raising funds for the library, but more importantly about representation. As much as that kid sitting out there believes that going to the moon is a given, it's whether they want to or not. I want my kid, I want that kid in the village, in the rural village of Africa, to believe that if they want to do everything, they can, because somebody like them has done it. Can they do it faster? They don't have to try 4 times like I did, because it's been done. If you look at what Black Panther as a movie has done, it's taken off what I grew up with, thinking, oh, I can't be a superhero. A young child now thinks, yeah, they can do Wakanda. It's like, it's possible, it's a given. It's whether they want to or not. It's not for them and us. And I think that the gift of representation is quite important.
Yeah, Yeah, and you know what? Actually, also in this digital world, where our world becomes smaller, that also makes us understand what's possible more, because we're not just
Absolutely, yeah.
it can be inspired by people all over the world.
Yes. The reality is, my kid is no longer competing with the child next door. They're competing with your kid. You know, that's how small the world has become. And as a generation, I want to be part of that generation that made sure that the next generation, they don't feel like second-class citizens in this global village. They feel like they can belong, they can contribute as much as any kid from the other side of the world. You know, I don't have delusion of grandeur. I know that I can do this much, but if I can nudge somebody else to do this much, we can, as a collective, make a whole difference. And that's why coaching is something that I'm very passionate about, and pushing people to actually get to their own summits in whatever field they're in is something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely, to get them to excel, for sure. So you skimmed over the second, third, and then I made it on the fourth time. So I think we need to make clear this wasn't you, just it was circumstances that prevented you. So let's talk a bit more about that. So first time round, the mountain was closed. Second time, 2007.
Yes. So first time was 2014. 16 shepherds died after a Sirac fell and an avalanche killed them. And I went back in 2015. Between Camp 1 and Camp 2, there was the earthquake hit Nepal, which killed about 9,000 people in Nepal, and about 22 people died at Everest Base Camp. The Khumbu icefall was completely shattered. The mountain was closed both on the north and the south side, and everybody was sent home packing. I came back home. What is interesting is you go with a few people that believe in you and a whole bunch of people that think you're crazy. What are you doing? And you come back, that little clique of people that believed you, you lose some of them. They're like, no, you've tried now. That's enough now, you know. And you know, 2016, I couldn't afford it. I just decided, okay, I'm going to save up. One of the things that I've learned is people that were cycling and running and doing a lot more cardio than I was, were having a better time in the mountain. You know, they was a lot stronger. So I started cycling and running. On the 8th of August, 2016, I unfortunately had a near fatal accident on my mountain bike. They say the mountains are dangerous and I almost died at home. But so I was coming down the mountain with my mountain bike, and I didn't realize that I had lost my back brakes. In trying to brake, I flipped over and I really cracked my skull. It was such a bad accident. And I was airlifted. I ended up in hospital. I woke up 3 weeks later and stayed in ICU for a week. That was end of August. When I came out, the doctor just said, you know, don't get back on the bike, because if you hit your head again, we're not sure we're going to put this together again, you know. And I started walking in September. October, I started running because I had a Soweto Marathon entry. And I got to Soweto Marathon. I thought, well, I had entered for a marathon. Maybe I'll do half a marathon, you know, since I haven't really trained much and I've had this accident. And I saw people doing a 42-kilometer run. I don't know if you're a runner yourself. Do you run at all?
I do other fitness stuff, but I don't have the mentality to keep running.
Yeah. So the guys that were doing 42 kilometers were singing, you know, it's just, the vibe was amazing. And I just decided, you know what, let me just go and do a 42. Maybe if I end at 30, I'll just, whatever, you know, I don't have to do the 42. I shocked myself. I finished it. It was a Sunday. And on the Monday, I was in the doctor's office. I'm like, I ran 42 kilometers. Surely I can still climb. I think the poor man probably just knew he wasn't going to stop me. He's like, okay, 3 weeks before you leave, just come and see me. And I did exactly that. I found myself on Everest. And in 2017, I went all the way up to the South Summit, which is 99 meters from the top. So close and yet so far. The winds were so bad that my Sherpa and I I actually said to him, initially I thought it was just me because it was the first time I was at that level in terms of altitude. Then I realized he was also struggling. The winds were quite bad. And I said to him, no, maybe we should go back because I had extra oxygen and then come back the next day. He's like, okay. We start going back down. But what we both didn't realize, there was something wrong with the supply of oxygen to me. And for probably 5 to 6 hours, I was inhaling and exhaling the same air. This is in the death zone. That's between Camp 4 and the summit. And I lost consciousness. And he wasn't in a position to help me, but it was very close to Camp 4. He went to Camp 4, got other Sherpas, and they came and they lifted me.
I should just say this, sorry, you had also explained to me that when you're in the death zone, you sign this agreement that they are allowed to leave you, right?
Yeah, so the small print in the death zone, because it's also dangerous for people trying to rescue you. So when people talk about bodies on Everest, which I didn't see any, by the way, most people used to be left there because it's dangerous for people trying to help you. They will risk their lives. So generally, that's why it's called the death zone, really. Yeah, they picked me up, took me to Camp 4. We found, this is now hearsay because I was unconscious. They found that our tent had been blown off by those winds. They were between 45, 65 kilometers an hour from what I understand. And he changed my oxygen tank and just left me there because I had no sleeping bag. Everything was gone. And the next day they came to pick up the body from what I understand, because somebody shook me in the morning and I woke up and I recognized him and I said, Lakpa, and he's like, oh, you're alive. So I'm like, of course I'm alive, but I'm hungry because they had not fed me at all. And then he said he had no food, but he had a flask with water. Flask is gold at that point. And I took the water and I looked up at Everest, and for the first time in the journey, I wondered whether all those naysayers that had said I couldn't were right. I think for me, it's the lowest point in the journey, when all along, when people said, oh, you can't, I had so many experiences of that. I would stubbornly say, let me show you. And now I wondered if they were right, And I walked down all the way to Camp 2. I was airlifted. I came back home. Although I hadn't verbalized it inside, I had really given up. I still trained and stuff like that. Until one day, my younger son, he was 15 at the time, came to me and said, Mom, when are you going back to Everest? That was interesting. Not, are you going back? It's like, when are you going back? And which is a testament of what I always tell him. You lose a soccer match, so what? What did you learn from it? Go back, do whatever you did well, do it better. And what you didn't do well, that is not working, dump it and pick up other strategies. And for him, it was a given. I must be cooking something because I'm definitely going, And I just said to him, 2020. So this was meant to be the year. And I started training a lot more. In 2019, I managed to find myself on Everest. I hadn't saved up enough, actually. I had more than half, but a certain company, actually Vimo, offered to sponsor me the rest. And I went to Everest, but with a different strategy. I went with a smaller group. I interviewed the lead guide, the leader that was taking us. There was just 4 of us. It's him, 2 other climbers, and myself. I was part of every decision. In 2014, when I went to the mountain, I had such a big imposter syndrome, I was least experienced, and everybody that was there, I think the least experienced next to me had 5 years experience in climbing. And they invite you for coffee, and I said, so where have you climbed? It's almost like, should I be standing next to you or a bit far from you? Because any decision you make and you're on the rope with me, you could cost me my life, right? And I was really running other people's races. I had to prove to them that I belonged. And 2019, none of that. I was like, I trained on my own. I've got my own strategy. I spoke to the leader. This is how I'm doing it. The other people trained together. They would go up front and I'll just follow. But what is interesting, on the summit day, from Camp 4 all the way up to the top, I led the team. but I was just going my own journey. And I wasn't anxious about the summit. I was anxious about getting to Camp 1, celebrated that, getting to Camp 2, celebrated that. And I strongly believe that 2019 was a success because of all the learnings and that I used from 2014, 2015, and 2017 as stepping stones to get to that successful day.
So I'm hearing you say a lot of things there. I'm hearing you say you became more prepared, you shed the imposter syndrome, you stayed present, you didn't get ahead of yourself, you know, one step at a time, one camp at a time, and you didn't let anyone else get in your head. And very powerful words that you said. I was on my own journey. You weren't doing that. Yes, you were with other people. You were also with a smaller group at that point, but you were on your own journey. How powerful a metaphor is that for life?
It is indeed. And I think that even in life, you know, we always envy the people across the road, but we don't know what they're going through. And we don't know whether that is really success. Success by whose standard? Success is me better than who I was yesterday, you know, and that's my journey. And that takes out a lot of pressure. And you'll notice that when I say we are all uniquely extraordinary, so there is no one measure of extraordinary, you know. And I think if we all believe that and actually looked at life that way, we would support each other to get to the summit, because there is enough space on the summit. And one of the things when I got to the summit that was interesting, apart from the fact there is enough space for quite many people, right, it is realizing how my mother was so wrong in saying the sky is the limit, what I preached to my kids, because the sky was suddenly beneath me, the clouds were beneath me, and I was above the clouds. That for me is something that's never, I probably would never get out of my mind, because me who tried so many times, who was told that I couldn't, I was suddenly up there, and everybody, important or not, on earth was beneath me at that point. That was so powerful. All the people that believed they were closing doors, even I believed they were closing doors in my face, were really closing windows and left the gate wide open for me to walk up there. It was such an emotional and a blessing at the same time.
Like you said, all the lessons from all the attempts, it's like everything was a culmination that got you there that time.
Absolutely.
Which
Absolutely.
is a really inspirational, a huge inspiration to others to recognize that you don't give up, and you can have the greatest adversity, or like you say, you think people are shutting doors on you, but actually they might just be closing one window and there is another window, there is another way around, sometimes even better and more powerful than the first. It can just be very difficult to accept it and swallow that pill, like how you felt when you went down, you know, after you nearly died that third time, feeling defeated.
Absolutely. And the other thing about Everest is you get up there, we were there for about 25 minutes, is realizing that that is halfway the journey. If you summit and you don't go back to the base camp, it's not counted as a summit. So 25 minutes and we start going down. I remember looking back with so much FOMO, fear of missing out. Like, I may never come back here. Is there something I didn't see that I need to really pay attention to before I go down? And while we were going down, actually, we lost one team member at Camp 4. And the next day we were walking down, really survival mode. We had to leave without finding him. They tried to find him at the time and we couldn't. And we went all the way down. And when I got to Camp 2, somebody said, "Sarah, congratulations." And I looked at them, I'm thinking, confused, congratulations about what? And I'm like, oh my God, I just summited, you know, and I just started crying because you start wondering, was it worth it? Was it really a success when 4 of us summited and only 3 of us have come down? You question all that. And one of the things that, you know, even today gives me comfort is knowing that he was doing what he loved and it was his time and it's not my time. And tragedy is, stopping before I fulfill my purpose. So that's my Everest journey.
And it was so sad as well. I remember you said to me, you know, his wife, he was pregnant actually with their child, and yet he was doing something that he loved.
Absolutely. Can you imagine if his pregnant wife was on Everest? That would have been news, right? What are you doing here, mother, and you're pregnant? But yeah, it's just crazy.
Oh, and again, it's where we can try to think of life as a celebration, and that he was living every minute of it. It's just, you know, his uniquely extraordinary journey, as we know it,
Yeah.
ended at that point. But like you said, you went off. You were desperately trying to rescue him. That you forgot your own celebration. Totally understandably, of course. But so then, what happened when you got back to Africa and all the people who thought you couldn't do it?
Well, that was interesting. I came back to a different world. Celebrations at the airport, even people that had said no to me, that said I couldn't do it. And it's just a testament that we continuously need to be our own cheerleaders. And the world might seem like they're not seeing us, they see you. And once you make it, and once you show them what you're capable of and what is possible, they'll come and celebrate with you. I think the most profound for me was going back to work, and there was this big celebration, which I thought was an overkill. I like, you don't need to do that. I kind of wanted to just go under the radar and get to my desk and move on. But they had this big celebration, and there were these cameramen taking pictures, and the lady that helps us make coffee came there and pushed the cameraman aside and hugged me and turned around and said, "Hey, take the picture," talking to the cameraman, right? To the journalist. And I just thought to myself, we needed this. It wasn't just for me, it was for her, you know? And I went to the canteen, and one of the ladies that serves there said to me, when I saw you on TV, I said to my kids, I make her salads. So it just became evident for me that it wasn't just about me. It was about everybody that was part of the community, part of the journey, part of the story. They just needed that success. And they may not have been seen to be supporting me while I was training, while I was doing all this, while I was begging for money, but they were cheering me on. But more importantly, I cheered me on. So we should always cheer ourselves on. And the world is watching and is cheering us on as well.
Yeah, it lends people that sense of hope to be able to celebrate with you, but it's also the sign of a true leader when you recognize it's not just about you and how the effect that you are able to have to give those other people hope, to inspire them, to make them feel that they are part of your world as well, and it's not just a you versus them situation.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah, it's a very
anyway. So yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just very very instinctive leadership, whether you were meaning to do it or not. And also the other thing that came to mind is that it doesn't, what you were saying, you know, with this phenomenal achievement and how it offered hope and inspiration to everybody. But also then in the everyday world, we have to realize that it, you know, we're not telling everybody to go and climb Mount Everest. It could be anything, right? It doesn't have to be some huge heroic thing, but it can have such a powerful impact.
Absolutely. I think Everest is not for everybody. I don't think everybody wants the cold and the hardship, but we all have our own Everests, right? It's a student that's struggling with a thesis or with homework. That is your Everest. It's that project that you've been, you know, keeping dusty and stuff and saying tomorrow, procrastinating. That is maybe your Everest. And go for it, because, you know, when you show up in your authentic self and go for it, you're actually opening up doors for somebody else to see that it is possible.
Yeah.
And that's why I went into coaching, because I totally believe that my journey can help other people. I can sort of be their shepherd towards their success, whatever that success is.
Yeah. I mean, and it's strange, isn't it? Because people would look at you and think, but you had this amazing other career. Why on earth would you transition to coaching? I mean, I was the same. You know, I traveled around the whole world as a speaker, a lecturer, an innovative researcher, top of my profession. You know, over 20 years as a specialist in the medical dental field as a periodontist, and yet then I trained as a coach. But I didn't see that as a step down. I saw that as a massive step up to transition from just helping people in the medical field to empowering their entire life, not just their health.
Yeah.
So I know we have a lot of parallels there. So when you, obviously you coach women now? Or
So I would coach anybody. I absolutely am passionate about women. Entrepreneurs, and I have a whole group of students that I mentor as well. But I do specialize in business executives, women leaders, as well as entrepreneurs.
And this is, I heard you say it so beautifully, to make you realize that we each have our own summit.
Absolutely. And one of the ways that I do it is using people's strengths. I think if we look at what's wrong with the world, we'll find a lot of it. What's wrong with us, we'll obviously find a lot of that. But if we focus on what we are good at, we naturally can do, and we can use those strengths to actually manage the weaknesses. It's very different to how I went to school. You're not good at maths, get a tutor, focus on it, But if Picasso focused on playing a piano, we wouldn't have the beautiful paintings that we have today. So it's the same with life. What are your strengths? How can I help you hone in, understand them, claim them, and actually use them to actually get to your success? And that's some of the things that I used to actually get to the top of the world. I use that in my career. I use that with my teams, and it works like a charm.
Yeah, and I think it's important here to add that strengths doesn't necessarily mean your talents, because some people may think, I don't have a particular talent at something, and then they may typically think about, writing or art or fitness. But your strength is something. Your strength is something. It's different to necessarily what you are talented at, and also what people think of talents are actually, in essence, what someone has worked damn hard at. Also, right?
Yeah, it's really what you do effortlessly. Sometimes you don't even think about it. That is your strength. And what is it that you do effortlessly? Is it, you like a future? So some of my strengths, my top 5 strengths are futuristic, responsibility, achiever, strategic, and learner. I don't need to have a doctorate, but I want to learn about everything that I come into contact with. Have enough knowledge, and the process of learning comes easy for me. I'll start with one article and I click and I just read and read, and other people, that doesn't come easily for them. So everybody has got strengths, and it's not magic. It's not something that lives next door. It's something that you naturally do with very little effort.
Exactly. And if you focus on that, and you focus on your strength rather than your weaknesses, or you focus on what you're good at rather than, or what's right with you rather than what's wrong with you, even though I have to say I don't like using those parallels, because to me that's a judgment anyway. There is no right and wrong. It just is. That's, of course, the more conscious we become, that's how we resonate. But for purposes of just simplifying it, if we focus at what our stronger characteristics and values are, then they will amplify. What we focus our intention on, it will amplify, and it will start to radiate and resonate out of us. And of course it comes back again to, as so many, as the message is about, shine in your own right, and shine what is within you. And the more you do that, the more people will recognize that and resonate with you, right?
That's correct. Absolutely. You're spot on.
Yeah.
How long have you been coaching? You seem very good at this.
All my life, really. Right? It's one of my strengths. I just formalized it a few years ago, but like I said, in my medical field, that's essentially what I was doing with every patient, because I would deal with patients who have chronic illness. So in that, you have to tap into their mindset. You have to tap into what makes them tick, what's going to get them to change their behavior, to engage in a health positive behavior. How can you inspire them? How can you motivate them? And because so often when someone comes to see you, they're in victim mode. They're handing over their power to you. Fix me. It's kind of like, I can't just fix you, not for this chronic disease. I can have you in the chair, I can treat you, but unless you do all the stuff at home, it's not going to work. You know, it's different to you just operating on someone and that's it, when it's so multifactorial. So you know, we would delve into people's life stories, and because how did they get there? They don't just get there through catching something. They get there because their immune system is down, or they're highly stressed. So what negative life events have they been through? What's happened in their story? What's happened in their life? So I have been coaching all my life because I've been peeling off all of those layers. And the first step is getting people to understand how they've got to where they are. But of course, the power of coaching is we don't linger there too long, do we? It's about how can we then shift you and move you forward, acknowledge that, let it go, energy release, forgiveness, loving yourself, shedding the imposter syndrome, and then let's move you forward let's get you to summit. Let's get you to where you want to be.
Absolutely love that. I was actually saying to somebody, you know, I don't know if you're a soccer fan. When a team doesn't do well, we always blame the coach. When we need to take some athletes to the Olympic, we find a coach for them. World Cup, we find coaches for them. But why not for us as individuals? Right? If I believe in the time that I'm here on earth and I want to optimize it, why don't I actually get somebody to keep me accountable, to guide me? I want to go to Everest. I find the best Sherpa to lead me to the top. Why not with your life? And that's why I think coaching is so underestimated, but I think it's something that it must have for everybody.
So powerful. And a lot of people think, but they run the analogy with sports and they think the coach is going to tell them what to do. And that's the other thing that's often misunderstood. No, because again, it's back to being unique, isn't it? Nobody can tell you what to do. You have to determine it yourself because you have to want to do it. But it's about helping to guide you to recognize what is truly in your heart, what is your true desire, what do you want to do, and then help you suss out the steps to get there. But it's so much, it starts with self. It starts with your strengths, your values, who you are inside.
And why? Why is it important? Because if you know your why, it's easy to figure out your how.
Absolutely.
You know, how to get from where you are to where you want to be.
Exactly. I call it your emotion, your energetic motion. What's gonna get you to drive you forward. So tell me about, I'm really fascinated about the South Pole and the skiing.
Yeah. So the South Pole happened in December. That was an interesting one, actually. I have never skied in my life. I must put that disclaimer on. Exactly. And I landed at the Union Glacier, and I had to do skiing 101. And it's totally, you know, mentally, I must admit that I just thought I've summited the highest mountain in the world. How difficult can this be? You know, I trained differently though. I started pulling tires on the street. I think my neighbors probably think I'm crazy. I think they're used to it by now. And so you pull a sledge that was about 75 kilograms, and it was the last degree. And on the second day, I actually fell and I hit my thumb. And it was windy. The winds were quite bad. We were actually delayed by 2 days and landed at the 89th degree on 2 days later than we should have. And we skied all the way and got to the South Pole on the 31st, their time, 31st of December at around 20 hours, 8 o'clock in the night. But South African time, it was just past midnight. So that was in South Africa on the 1st of January, 2020.
So how
and the
many days altogether to get there?
Excuse me?
How many days altogether to get there?
Oh, we got to the South Pole on the 8th day.
The 8th day. 8 days. And how many hours skiing a day?
How many?
How many hours skiing a day?
Oh, how many? Oh, so the first day we did a very short one. The other days were between 8. I think the longest we did was about 12 hours, which was the last day. But the wind was howling. I mean, one of the things about Everest and any other climb that I had done, you have a point of reference. You know, I'll walk all the way up to that rock, and when I get there, I've achieved something, right? And on the South Pole, you look to the back and you look everywhere, 360 degrees, everything looks the same. At some point on the sixth day, I started wondering whether we're going in the right direction, because the only thing we had was our compass to tell us that, yes, we're going to the South Pole. But the closer you get to the South Pole, the more the compass needle starts playing around. And it's just crazy. But one of the most important things that I picked up there, you carry everything that you need. Your personal gear, your tent, if you put out any waste, you put in the bag and you carry that with you. So you leave absolutely nothing behind. And I wish all the mountains could do that, because it's just really clean. But more importantly, mind games a lot more than I experienced on Everest, because as the winds are coming through, so we were skiing for 1 hour, you stop for 10 minutes. Within those 10 minutes, you snack, you take your big jacket so that you don't freeze to death. And on the 11th minute, with military precision, you're back to skiing again for another hour, 10 minutes, again back. Like, it's just insane. One of the other thing that I would love to share is the first few days I was like in heaven. My grandmother always used to say, when we're in heaven, there will be no night there. Suddenly there was no night. It's like daylight in December, like 24/7. You are excited for 3 days. The fourth day, you're like, come on, I need darkness. Like, what is this? Because you wake up at 2 o'clock in the night, and then there's like the sun hitting you in the face. And sometimes you actually don't realize it's midnight and your eyelids are falling over and you look at your watch like, flip, I need to sleep, because in the morning I need to get up and start skiing again. It was just different. I like I said, it was Neverest and not Everest. You know, I have a lot more respect for polar expeditionists than I could have ever imagined. A lot of respect.
So I think I can relate to I've been in Russia, actually, again, lecturing, it has taken me all around the world. I've been in Russia with the 1 o'clock in the morning with the sun in the summer, which is kind of weird, but it's a novelty, but I can imagine it will wear off. I've been in Finland in the winter, where it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon and it's pitch black, or actually it's midday and it's pitch black, and how, of course, it affects your body because of all the melatonin release that's needed for us to sleep and wake up. So I get the bit about the novelty, but there was a beautiful kind of what came to mind which I thought is so relevant to the current situation. When you talked about the mountain, like you said, each day you are achieving, you're getting somewhere. When you're in the South Pole, you don't even know if you're going in the right direction. And again, this is so relevant, definitely, to what's going on in the world at the moment with COVID, because people are being forced to feel like they're not getting anywhere because they can't plan, they can't look forward, they can't, you're moving ahead because you're getting on with everyday life, but you're not necessarily embarking on that sense of achievement, and yet you are propelling forward. Now, this plays serious mind games with you, as it did with you, albeit on an adventure. What do you want to say about that?
So if I look at COVID and the lockdowns and where we are, first of all, this has disrupted my plans for the Explorer Grand Slam. But the other thing is, to help me see that I'm moving somewhere, I still train. I have done certifications as a coach during this time. I obviously can't move forward in terms of the Explorer Grand Slam, but I will be a better person when the world opens up. It's a tragedy if the same Sarah that went into the lockdowns comes out on the other side. So I'm keeping my mind busy. I mean, it's like climbing Everest, if I were to use that analogy. You acclimatize, you go up, you come and slip down. You go up, and once you're well acclimatized, you wait for the right weather window to make the summit. But while you wait, you keep exercising, you keep fit, because it definitely is going to open up, because the summit is up there. but are you going to be ready for it? Are you doing stuff to ensure that you are ready for when the world opens up, or for when we accept the new normal being our way of life? I think that for me is important.
So what I'm hearing you say is you're someone very like me who resonates at the level of opportunity. You see
Absolutely.
opportunity. And I know with me, I know when we first went into lockdown, I mean, we're talking 6-7 months, a friend said to me, what do you make of all this? And I said, I see it as a gift. Obviously not with the tragedy and the health that happened, but from a personal point of view, it was a gift, to slow down because I needed to, because I was tired and been working like a maniac. But it was a gift of space and time to grow and do and create and do even more. Yeah, it's as an opportunity. But what about, take COVID out of it, what about everyday life when people feel that they're really trying to achieve something, but they feel like they're getting nowhere because everything's the same?
Because
every day ends up looking the same, like when you were skiing.
Yeah. Before I answer that, I just want to say, I don't know if you know this quote by Winston Churchill. It says, "Never let a good crisis go to waste." I think that's what it's about. I think it's trusting in your own abilities and the work that you're putting in. Just because it all looked the same and I wasn't sure about where I was going, I didn't stop skiing. I kept moving. I questioned it. I double checked it. We initially started using only one compass. When I started questioning it on the 6th day, I'm like, are we really going in the right direction? Because I don't see anything. We took out all the compasses. There was 3 of us and we were checking everyone just to make sure. I think it's the same with life. Nobody that's ever stopped running has ever crossed the finish line. And it's also important to actually step outside of your comfort zone. There is no success in your comfort zone. Just try a little, and you see how much magic that will be.
Yeah, which of course is what we do in the coaching process. So this is the thing. So it is part of it then, if I'm hearing you correctly, and I certainly what I believe, it's about trust as well. So as you develop yourself, you love to learn, like you said, but learning is not just about reading books. Learning is about growing in ourselves, about training our own intuition, learning to read the signs, learning to incorporate every aspect into what we become and what we do. And that isn't just the facts, is it? It's so much else. And so what I was hearing you say is you have to trust. So sometimes you can feel like you're not getting anywhere, but if you trust the process, trust the challenge, trust being pulled, you will get there. It might not be as fast as you had anticipated. That doesn't mean, and I'm a firm believer in not settling. It's one of my lines is, compromise is overrated and settling is outdated. So we're not telling people to, we're not saying settle or lower your standards, but just trust and know you will get there.
Absolutely. Trust the process. I so relate to that. But more importantly, keep learning, keep moving, and keep moving forward. And if it doesn't work out, and at that point, figure out what you've learned from that process. So one thing that I didn't share with you that I did after every unsuccessful Everest summit is come home and have 2 pages of what went right. What did I learn? And every time I have it, filled 2 pages and half a page of what didn't work out. So I didn't summit. Okay. But guess what? I've got 2 pages of stuff that I need to do. Now I need to start training this way. I need to start doing this. I had my personal best at that, and I can still climb. And sometimes that's why at 99 meters, I was so confident in saying, going up, I would never have survived. I would never have survived to come and talk to you today. Sometimes a success is pulling back in order to move another day. That's also important.
Yeah, that is so beautifully said. And of course, the other thing is, as you said, you were above the sky. It wasn't a case of the sky's the limit. It's actually, it's above the sky. There is no limit.
No,
Also, it doesn't
none.
count as a summit unless you got back down again. So again, I'm just full of metaphors today because you're just inspiring me. I think that's a very important message when it comes to needing to balance, that we also need to ground ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have to. It's just, I don't know if you know the concept of Ubuntu, right? I think it starts with you, and you also need to trust yourself. Many times, as a coach, you find that people have all the answers. They just need an accountability partner, somebody to remind them of the things that they already know, and to give them the pat on the shoulder to say, yeah, you're going in the right direction. That's all it means. You have all the answers. Remember, you are uniquely extraordinary. Only you can do you. So I just think trusting yourself is the beginning of everything. And Ubuntu is really part of it. Trusting the people around you, that they have your interest at heart and they're able to go into it. They will be able to lead you to where you need to be.
Yeah. And of course, that again comes with working on yourself, because when you work on your values and who you are, and when you are prepared to release, so you're prepared to get rid of people and situations that no longer serve you, then you end up being surrounded by people who you truly can trust, because they're your people.
Absolutely. It's actually, that's one of the things that sometimes is difficult to say, but I've come with all these people from Lukla, that's where you land before you get to Everest Base Camp. But I've come with all these people from there, but those people are only good for you up to Everest Base Camp. And if your journey is to the summit, say goodbye and get other people to journey with you to the top of the world. And that's not bad. That's okay, because their aim is up to Everest Base Camp. That's their summit. And that, if that's not yours, say goodbye and partner with other people that will help you achieve your success. And that's also good.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people really struggle with this sometimes in life, in work, in creating boundaries. They feel like it's a bit heartless to let people go. And I try to explain, but you're not doing something horrible. You're not completely turning your back on someone. What you're doing, and we're not asking you to do it in a horrible way. You're honoring yourself and who you are and your journey.
Absolutely. I think you are number one, and you need to look after yourself. They tell us that in the planes. I'm sure you can relate to that put oxygen on yourself before you help other people. And many times, especially the concept that I just introduced about Ubuntu, it's like you think you need to save everybody. If you are not able to function at 100%, how on earth are you going to save anybody else? And I think that it's not being selfish. It's the right thing to do. Be at your optimal. You'll be amazed how many other people you help to their summit.
Yeah, absolutely, because you will take them with you, and you'll have the energy and the power to be able to do that, as you are doing today with this wonderful inspiration. So what is next on the cards?
So I'm doing something amazing on the 25th of October. We are spinning for 8 hours and raising funds to build 9 digital libraries for iSchool Africa. We're hoping to raise R1 million to be able to do this. So that's in the immediate, that's 25th of October. Thereafter, I'm hoping to go to Carsten's Pyramid and continue the journey in April, North Pole, and June, Denali, and hopefully Mount Vincent in December 2021.
Now, which is the one in South America? I always forget the name.
Aconcagua.
Yes,
Aconcagua.
yes, because I remember my brother trained very, very hard to do that, and unfortunately the weather wasn't on his side in the end, so he didn't quite manage it. So have you done that one yet?
Yes, I did that one. The time that we submitted, there was 97% failure rate, and we made it. We just made it. Yeah, that was a blessing. All the other mountains that I've done, Kilimanjaro, Elbrus, Aconcagua, I summited first time, which was a blessing. It's only Everest that I tried 4 times.
So a few more left, and then would you be actually even the first woman to have done the Grand Slam, let alone first African woman?
No, first African. There are a few women that have done the Grand Slam. First African woman to do the Grand Slam, hopefully.
That would just be amazing. And I'm not even going to ask you about the time scale, because at the moment we just have to be present. So who knows, but just expect that it will happen. And set
will happen.
set your mind to it, and yeah, it will happen when it's meant to, and the right window opens.
Absolutely. And the key is to be prepared all the time. So I continue training so that when the opportunity is here, I'm able to just jump in and continue as if nothing had happened, you know.
How important is it to have the support of your family in situations like this?
Very important. I always joke and say climbing is a family sport. Especially after the 4 Everest attempts, you realize that they're just as worried about you when you're not there. So one of the things that my boys and I have is to say, it's a pact to say, I'm going to make life-preserving steps. Really, look, I don't have control over when my life ends, but I'm not going to take unnecessary risks, because I know that there are people waiting for me. So I'm going to only take risks that can be managed, that I can see, and keep them in the loop at all times. I take an Enrich Garmin. It's a tracker. They can see where I am. I'm SMSing them at all times. When I was on Antarctica, Christmas, I was able to send messages and communicate with them. I have a satellite phone. So sometimes they are a lot more panicky than me on the mountain, and I recognize that because I can see what's happening. But they don't know. If I don't say anything, they don't know, and they also, I'm sure, worry that I kind of say what they want to hear and not necessarily what is happening. And I recognize that, and it's just important to keep their minds at ease. So it is a family sport, and it's important for them to be part of it.
Yeah, and again, this is an example where you can have people, just because your journey is yours and it's uniquely extraordinary, that doesn't mean you can't have people involved in that journey, because they can add to it in so many wonderful ways. But at the same time, you don't let them hold you back.
Yes, that's correct. Absolutely correct. And that's why at some point there's some negative aspects that you kind of need to say goodbye to, because they're not useful at that particular point. And that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and how many schools so far have you?
So it's libraries. I've built 5 Mandela libraries in 5 different schools. And now I'm actually going to build a digital library that I've already raised funds for on the 20th. So that's going to be the 6th, but a digital one. And we're hoping to build 9 more digital libraries around South Africa.
That's just phenomenal. That is just phenomenal. You know, your beauty radiates in every way, your passion, your purpose. And of course, it all comes, you know, you're still learning. You have a passion for learning. You're helping other people learn. And you are learning and helping to teach, you know. And this, of course, is the other thing I often say is, you know, we are each our own. We are our teacher and our student. So through everything that we do, we learn and we teach, which is very much what you're doing now.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel very blessed, you know, and I'm grateful. One of the things, though, that scares me a little bit is realizing how much responsibility it comes with, because then suddenly I have a platform for people to say, oh, so how did you do that? And how can I do this? And they're listening, and it's how to use it and get the positive impact that the world needs, especially at this time when people are uncertain about many things.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, it doesn't have to be about climbing mountains, but of course that's what you do through your motivational speaking. That's what you do through your coaching, to help people work out for themselves what they need to do. Like we said, the answer is always within us. I think that's literally, I'll give it away now, I think it's like the last 3 or 4 words of my book. It's, you know, the answer is within you. It's just I help you in the process of how to suss that out. So listen, people can find out more about you and connect with you and get in touch with you through your website, sarahkhumalo.com. I'm going to spell it out for our audio listeners. That's SarahKhumalo.com. And they can also connect to you. It's Instagram, isn't it? Sarah N. Khumalo, or through Twitter at Sarah Khumalo. Yep.
Yes. So the first one, Sarah N. Khumalo, is Facebook.
It's your Sarah N. Khumalo, and then your Twitter, Sarah Khumalo, and your website, Sarah Khumalo, like I said, SARAY Khumalo.com, and get some information about you there and your coaching and your speaking and so on, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Amazing. Wow. Thank you. I think you and I could just carry on for hours talking about metaphors and analogies and all the rest of it. But I think you've helped inspire and give people a real wealth of information and a real infusion of passion today. So for that, I am so incredibly grateful. Thank you for being such a great guest today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me and for giving me an opportunity on your platform.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Now, I know it's going to be good from you, so I'm going to put you on the spot. Final words?
You are extraordinary and do not choose to remain ordinary.
I love it. You are extraordinary and do not choose to remain ordinary. The words from Sarah Khumalo, and so true. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Please do hit the subscribe button and share it. Tell people about it. Whether you're listening on the podcast or watching the video, the more people we can inspire this way, the better, and the better that our world will be. So for now, I am Dr. Rana Al-Falaki. That's it for today. So my 3 final words to you: be free, be fun, and be fearless. Bye-bye for now. Feel on top of the world with Light Changes Coaching. Do you feel like burying your head in the sand, hoping it will all be fine when you come out? Do you know what you want, but no idea how to get it? Are you stuck on the treadmill, repeating the same old patterns, wishing that the answers would just be there for you? How great would it feel to have those answers right there in the palm of your hand? Or did you know that there is a way you can get immediate answers, fast resolution of inner problems, and quick access to a higher state of awareness? After 20 years of helping people, I've perfected a special technique that allows you to tap into your intuition easily, effectively, and without needing to do long meditations. You can connect with your intuition in just 5 minutes a day using the special technique, the Dr. Rana technique, and you can have those light bulb moments every day. So get what you want, find the answers to get the perfect love, the money, the brilliant health, the phenomenal career success, the amazing balance. Find out what it is you need to do. My special gift to you is this simple, quick technique to access your intuition and give you the instant answers that you need to get unstuck. So head on over right now to lightchangescoaching.com and download that special gift just for you.